All right.
All right. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Joshua Lopez. I'm here with Chris Yaekel, Guild Mortgage. So we want to talk about the home buying process. We went through it yesterday, talked about the from beginning to end with home buying. Um, Mentioned quite a few things, but today I'm here with Chris Yaekel, who's going to go a little bit more in depth about VA loans, right?
Absolutely.
Um, Chris, how long have you been doing loans for?
About 2.5 years now.
Okay. Um, Chris and I started working together. We really like helping people achieve their goals in home buying. And yeah, we partnered up to just help provide information to people, honestly, more than anything. Not necessarily looking to, you know, you have to work with us. We want to make sure that you are educated in what you are doing, not just going out there and trying to Google all the information. We're a source of information as well, always wanting to help. Chris, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I graduated from the University of Washington after I got out with a degree in corporate finance. So super passionate about numbers, everything, real estate as well. I love what I do, and I love helping veterans, of course, but everybody else as well. And you know what? Speaking of education, that is, in my opinion, the number one barrier to buying a
Absolutely.
home. People think that I can't buy a home because I don't make enough money, I don't have enough down payment, my credit is not good. When in reality, there's always a solution. You
Absolutely.
put a plan in place, get educated by us, and buy a house.
Yep,
Anybody can.
definitely. Yeah, I've been tutoring for 10 years. Well, longer now, but tutored for 10 years. Really loved it. And I wanted to bring that passion over to real estate because, yes, it is one of the biggest barriers. Like, one of the biggest things, people think they need 20% down to be able to buy a home.
Right.
That's a big no. We actually just had a mutual client who purchased a home with 0% down.
Yep.
And that was all thanks to the VA loans. However, there are some other options, and we are going to talk about them. You don't always need 20% down. There are benefits of putting 20% down, but overall, whether it's 3% down that you're doing, 0% down, 20% down, we're here to help you become a homeowner.
Absolutely.
Um, as I mentioned yesterday, we went over the home buying process. Um, from beginning when you apply for that home loan all the way till when you get your keys. Today we're going to focus a little bit more about the loan part of it, right? Um, so we have a pre-qualification and a pre-approval.
Hmm.
A lot of times people don't realize that there's a difference between the two. They're
Right.
like, "Oh, I have my pre-approval card or letter," right? You're like, "Well, did you submit documents?" What documents? Okay, so you have a pre-qualification letter.
Right. Right.
That's the first indicator right there. However, pre-qualification isn't necessarily bad. You know, a lot of people just get a letter and say, "Okay, I'm good to go." A pre-qualification letter is still fantastic to kind of know where you stand with everything.
Mhm.
What is your approximate monthly payment?
Right.
Right? What are your closing costs going to be? At least an estimate. If it comes out, this is the programs that you would qualify for. You have the, let's say, conventional Fannie Mae program, right? At least you know kind of where you would stand and what your closing costs would be, what the minimum down payment would be, and we'll go over those details here in a bit. But it gives you an idea, and then you're going to realize, oh, I don't have to wait those 2 years that I thought I had to wait to save up the 20%, right? That's what the pre-qualification does is it lets you know, hey, your starting point is actually next month if you really wanted to. Um, a pre-approval has different benefits. With the pre-approval, that's where we go shopping for a home.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's that point. But yeah, you want to tell us a little bit more about the two and the differences that you use them here in your office?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you outlined it pretty well. When we're talking about a pre-qualification, it's really finding out, where you are currently, you know, rough estimate qualify that, so you have a good foundation and understanding. So anytime that I talk with a new client, the very first time I get on the phone with them, we'll kind of go through some real rough numbers. We'll talk first, hey, what's your goal for a purchase price? What's your goal for a monthly payment? Where do you want to keep that around? Do you have money set aside for a down payment? And then we'll go through some more rough figures. How much do you make an hour? Or are you salaried? Do you get overtime income? And kind of figure out what's that top line picture. And then let's look at, okay, what kind of bills do you have? What are your liabilities? Do you have a car loan? Do you have student loans? Do you have credit card debt? Things like that. And then we can kind of do a little bit of back of the napkin math, I like to call it,
Yep.
and do some, reverse engineering and say, okay, based on your income, based on your debts, you can afford X mortgage payment. And then we do a little bit more reverse math, kind of with the parameters that we went off of earlier. Okay, you want to keep your payment around here. This is how much you have down. Here's your, purchase price that you're targeting. And then we can say, okay, if I kind of finagle all those around, here's roughly where we are in terms of purchase price. And that really helps me have an understanding about what your goals are, your timeline, and if there's a deeper plan that needs to be put in place if you're not quite where you need to be.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's kind of how the pre-qualification process starts, just super down and dirty, basic, and gives you at least that first step of confidence of starting a pre-approval process and going more official, or hey, let's go with a longer term mortgage plan for now.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. Once you do get that pre-approval though, most people fall under the category of either a conventional loan or an FHA loan. Those are the two that you hear most about. Can you give us a little bit more about like the details about each one and who qualifies for which one?
Definitely. And so I'll just real quick jump back into the pre-approval process. Once we do have kind of that idea figured out, hey, are we going to go conventional? Are we going to go FHA? We'll go through a more official and formal pre-approval process. That's when we grab documents. That's when we review your credit. That's when we make something more official with the product that we're going to choose. Now, when we're talking about the difference between FHA, VA, conventional, all these different things, we'll just start with the first two. FHA is a lot more lenient on credit history. So someone who maybe has a lack of credit history or poor credit history, maybe have collections or a lot of disputes or something like that, or just a lower credit score, it's much more favorable program to that type of credit profile. It also has a lower down payment. We'll jump back into the 3% conventional in a second, but it has kind of the standard low payment for the industry, which is 3.5% down.
Not that 20%.
Right. Yeah. Not 20% like everybody thinks, right? I'll kind of go back and forth here a little bit. Conventional, you can do a 3% down loan if you're a first-time home buyer, but it's very strict on the guidelines for qualifying. So you have to have pretty clean credit to be able to do a 3% down conventional. What are some of like the benefits of one versus the other? Well, with conventional, if you're not putting 20% down, you're going to have mortgage insurance just like you do on FHA.
Yep.
But once you hit 20% equity in your property, that mortgage insurance will fall off automatically. Absolutely. With conventional. With an FHA, if you're putting 3.5% down, that will stay on there for the life of the loan.
Yep.
So you're either going to have to refinance out of that FHA loan, or maybe you sell your property and go buy another one and don't use an FHA next time. Yep. But so that's maybe one of the downsides of FHA is it has that long-term mortgage insurance.
Yeah.
That's really some high-level basic differences between the two. I mean, what other thoughts do you have on that?
What's the minimum credit score needed for the two?
So technically, we have a program for FHA where you can have as low as a 540.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
But realistically, that's going to have higher down payment requirements. The interest rates are not going to be favorable. So what I would recommend is that people have a 600.
Yeah.
We could try to work with the numbers on a 540, but it becomes a little more difficult, to be honest.
And this is exactly where a pre-qualification comes in handy.
Right.
Let's take a look at the things, that are required. And it's like, okay, based off everything right now, you would probably qualify for only FHA loans. And even though FHA loans are great, it's a great option because obviously they'll still help you buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always the best option. However, let's say, with an FHA, you have that 540 credit score, but you have quite a bit saved up. The 20% that you thought you needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have all the other requirements met, but your credit score is low. Sometimes FHA might be your only and best option.
That's very true. And I'll bring in kind of a very personal story here, actually, on this one. When my wife and I bought our house, 5-6 years ago, my wife was making more money at the time, so we needed to use her income, but she didn't have a great credit score. I had 20% to put down on the house, but we had to use an FHA loan because of the credit.
Yeah.
So you're right. That is an option for people sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's situations.
Absolutely. What's the minimum credit score for a conventional loan?
So you can get away with a 620 credit score, but again, I mean, your rate is not going to be great. The mortgage insurance is going to be way higher. It almost always is going to make more sense to go with an FHA loan if you're at a 620 credit score. So that's the minimum, but I would tell people, let's try and get you to, a 660, 680 to go conventional and have it be more beneficial than an FHA loan.
Absolutely. So, that's one of the biggest things. Again, I come back to the pre-qualification, right? Because a lot of people see it as a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. It's a tool that is used to figure out where you're at. And if we say, okay, well, guess what? You're at a 600 credit score. Let's take a look at your credit report, right? And so they take a look at your credit report, and then they say, oh, if you do this and that, you should see an increase in your credit score. So why don't we wait 2 months? And in those 2 months, that credit score can change drastically.
Absolutely.
It might be something that went into collections that you completely forgot about, and it's sitting right there, right? So then you take care of certain things, and it'll increase you back up to a 680 maybe. I've seen jumps happen like that. Not saying that's the case at all for everybody, but definitely one of the best things about that pre-qualification is it lets you know where you stand. And maybe, okay, well, no, everything is still great. You've been on track. Your credit score is just still low because of, some bad decisions you made when you were younger, right? So we all went through that. But yeah, so conventional FHA, the most common for a lot of first-time home buyers. Each one has its own benefits. However, there's also that VA loan, right? The one that we're here to talk about, because that even gives you a 0% down payment option, right?
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So VA loan, very special product, really in its own category. It is a government-backed loan, just like FHA or VA, or USDA. So it's guaranteed by the government. It's backed by the government. And I could sit here and talk about the VA loan for hours. I love this product. It's got a tremendous amount of benefits. But let's start with how you qualify for that. So you need to be a veteran or the spouse of a deceased veteran who passed away in war. And let's see, what else? What are some of the other basic?
If you're an active military member,
you qualify. Absolutely. Yep.
I saw you post a video on Instagram recently. Who else qualifies that they just added?
For VA?
Yeah.
Which video are you referring to?
The Space?
Oh, Space Force. Yeah. So that's, basically the Space Force, our new military branch. They opened up the eligibility for them because they are a legitimate branch of the military. Yes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, active duty military qualifies. The requirements are a little bit different for National Guard or reservists.
Okay.
There's very specific in different situations, but for example, if you were just a National Guardsman and didn't ever activate or anything, you would have to have served for your full 6-year term to qualify for the VA loan.
Okay.
But if you're a reservist, for example, and you activated for 90 days, you would qualify. So there's some different quirks in there and whatnot,
Yeah.
but generally it's pretty safe to say that if you were in the military, you very likely qualify. Honorable discharge or anything but a dishonorable discharge, you're pretty much good to go. So what are some of the differences there? Well, VA loan, 0 down option, which is fantastic. Typically, you're going to have lower interest rate than a conventional loan, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a disability rating of 10% or more, you get to waive your upfront mortgage insurance premium. Okay, so what that is if you're not waiving that, or if you can't waive that, VA does not have monthly mortgage insurance. It has an upfront mortgage insurance premium. And that just gets added to the loan amount. If you're a first-time buyer and user of the VA loan, it's 2.3%.
Okay.
So that can add up for sure, but having it wrapped into the loan is fantastic.
Absolutely.
But so many of the vets I work with have that 10% disability rating, so you just get to waive it.
Yeah.
Those are some of the big differences there. I think a couple of the qualifying perks is that you can have a higher debt to income ratio.
Oh, wow.
So that expands your purchasing power. There's also no loan limit technically for the VA loan. So you could buy $1 million house with 0% down. Still have to qualify for that payment wise, but that's another really cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's the credit score requirement for that?
540 again. 540 again. It's a government loan, so there's that guideline in place. A lot easier to do that on VA as opposed to the FHA with a 540 score. So that's much more workable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, so using that VA loan, that's one of the biggest ways of doing 0% down. Mm-hmm. Right now, with the way the market has been going, houses are sitting a little bit longer on the market. Maybe they weren't priced correctly, or maybe they were priced to how the market was in the beginning of the year, right? That first quarter, we were still seeing bid war after bid war. So people were pricing their home at a certain price point and still going over.
Yep.
We're seeing it now where you can have your closing costs covered by the seller. So 0% down and 0 in closing costs comes out to a total of $0 to buy a home. However, there are still a few costs, that you do still have to worry about, which are very minimal. Mm-hmm. The first one being the inspection, right? You still want to do an inspection at home. Always recommended, unless you yourself became an engineer afterwards, or you use your what's the
GI Bill?
GI Bill. Thank you. Your GI Bill to go to school for engineering, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, we always recommend getting an inspection done on the home.
Definitely.
The average cost for an inspection about $500, $550, right around there. So it's always recommended. And then in addition to that, you still have to do an appraisal for the home. Those appraisals run anywhere between $700 to about $1,000. So overall, you're looking at about $1,500 as a veteran to buy a home.
Yep. And just a side note, but VA appraisals are set by the different VA offices, so it's actually not lender specific. So for our area here in Washington, VA appraisals as of right now are $875, and lenders don't change that. They can't change that. That's just another way that you're protected as a veteran.
So less than $1,500 to buy a home.
Boom.
So there are many options, right? But don't be discouraged if you're not a veteran, have friends that aren't veterans. There are down payment assistance programs here in Washington. The biggest one being the home advantage. Thank you. My goodness, it's it's been a minute with that one, but one of the biggest things with that one, taking a 5-hour home buyer class. Now, 5 hours do seem like a lot, especially on a beautiful day, Saturday, when you're just wanting to be outside, going out on a hike or something, right? However, very, very beneficial. There's been plenty of times where even in those 5 hours, believe it or not, I've run out of time. I'm like, I still have more to tell you.
Yeah.
And we have people, just busy taking notes. There's a lot to learn in that 5-hour class. We go very, very in depth with so much of the information. However, with that down payment assistance class, you take the 5-hour class, you need a credit score of 640 or higher, 620 or higher. And you do need to be a U.S. citizen, a permanent resident, or have a work authorization. Not all work authorizations work, but Chris can definitely help you figure out if yours qualifies or not.
Yeah.
One of the most popular ones is DACA. So all you dreamers out there definitely would qualify. And this down payment assistance does provide assistance up to 4 or 5%, depending on the program that you qualify for. But that's why it's very important to get that pre-approval going. How would somebody go about submitting an application?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, great question. So again, it kind of starts with that first conversation. Let's look at your numbers. Let's see where you are. Let's get you pre-qualified. And then at that point, we can do multiple things. You can come into the office and we can take it in person. Just write it all down. If you're you don't have to be super tech savvy even, but you could just go online, right to my website, for example, and type in all your information, submit it that way. You'll upload your documentation there as well. Or we can even just do it on the phone. I mean, take the application over the phone, super simple. And realistically, if you have a pretty clean, work history and employment and whatnot, and clean assets and everything, I'd pre-approve people same day.
Yeah. I actually, one of the best things, working with a private bank, and not just a private bank, but working with Chris, I was in a pickle with one of my clients, and their lender only worked Monday through Friday, which is great for them. Love that schedule for them. However, we don't necessarily sell homes Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We sell them 24 hours a day, pretty much.
That's right.
I've been on a hike where I'm like, a little bit of service here, submit the offer, right? No, but one of the biggest things with that is Chris was able to get us out of that pickle. I said, hey, I'm sending you my client. We need a pre-approval in less than 2 hours. He got it done.
Boom.
For a VA loan nonetheless. And those take a little bit longer sometimes because of certain documentation that's needed. But overall, that's what we're saying. We're here to help. We're always wanting to help people achieve their goal. For us, it's not another sale. For us, we want to see you achieve that goal. Whether it's your dream home or your starter home, we want to see you achieve that goal. But yeah, so if you have any questions, any more information you want to obtain, my phone number is 206-596-5429. Feel free to give me a call, text, anything. Chris?
Yeah, my cell is 425-422-3054, or you can find all of my information at guildmortgage.com/Chris Yaekel. CHRASYEAKEL.
Perfect. If you know anyone else that could benefit from this class, don't hesitate. We do teach these every month, the third week of every month, 6:30 p.m. Next week, we will be having an estate planning class where a lawyer will be going over the benefits of having a will to protect those investments, right? All that hard work, all that 0% down and then not protected. But yeah, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always available. Again, Josh Lopez
and Chris Yaekel.
Thank you very much.
See ya. Bye-bye.